Welcome to the Permian Strategic Partnership Podcast. I'm your host, Krista Escamilla. Hello, everyone. Welcome to this week's episode of the Permian Strategic Partnership Podcast. We are so thankful you're here with us today as we get close to closing out 2025. We just want to thank all of our listeners for being with us and sharing the good news of PSP and the Permian Basin. And we just couldn't be more grateful for your support. So thank you. We are so excited to introduce today's guest. So I will start with my favorite titles. And I think they're probably most people's first husband and dad of four. But he is also Dr. Kevin Beardmore. He is the president of Southeast New Mexico College, and we're so grateful for him being here today to share his story. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Well, first and foremost, I just want to say, thank you for what you do. A career in education is so important and pouring back into kids. And you've had a very varied career. You've been everything from a middle school science teacher to now the president of a college. So tell us a little bit about your, maybe what first fostered your passion for education.
Well, I still remember the moment in college where one of my roommates said to me, "You'd be a good teacher." And for some reason, it just stuck, and I never really considered it. I'd been a science major, attained physics, chemistry, math, all of it, ended up graduating with a geography degree, but my focus was remote sensing.
Okay.
So you're starting to think, the oil connection begins, I suppose, in some ways. But I had minors in mathematics and geology, but then, that stuck with me, so I pursued my master's in education, and I could either go into secondary or elementary at that point. And I knew that if I wanted to have a job, that being an elementary teacher as a male would be a good opportunity. But what I really wanted to do was middle school. Okay. I wanted to go back to that because I remember my junior high years and they were miserable, and I thought we could do better.
Oh, I love that.
And so that's what got me into education. I felt really good about what I was able to do in my first 3 years. And then there was a job at the Indiana Department of Education being in charge of science ed for the whole state. And I'm like, I qualify. I have 3 years. I have a master's. Let's interview, see what happens. And lo and behold, I got the job.
You got it.
Yeah, you just never know how these things are going to turn out. And that was a great experience too. And then we found our way back to my wife's hometown, which that took me back into education again, in higher education. So I started a little college where I filled out the application. It was a branch campus of the University of Kentucky, but it had just broken away from the University of Kentucky to become independent.
Okay.
And the reason that part of the story is important is that's what Southeast New Mexico College just did.
Oh, wow.
So you'll start to see where the connection begins there. And so at that college, I spent 23 years there, moved up through a lot of different roles, did a lot of data work, curricular work. But then I was vice president of student affairs for 15 years. And in that time, near the end, finishing out my doctoral degree and so on, I started looking for places that maybe a presidency would be the right fit. And I always thought, I want to go somewhere where I can be useful. And I made a joke of it in the interview I've said before. It's just like Thomas the Tank Engine. You just want to be a useful engine, And when I was selected to be a finalist at the college, there were 6 finalists. And everybody else was from Texas or New Mexico. Mm-hmm. And I thought, well, this will just be a good chance to good experience, see how it turns out.
I'm sure they're going to pick a fellow.
Exactly. Yeah, they know somebody who knows, so
right.
not the guy from Kentucky. Like, what up with that? And so after the interview, which went extremely well, I finished up and I said, well, that was really something, this maybe this could be it. I said, but I can't imagine. Well, the next day they called and said, yeah, they offered the job. So, but what it was is as I arrived there and found out they were really going through the same things I'd been through before with the breakaway from the University of Kentucky, I realized that I had the experience that I could apply. So that idea of being useful, it's like, yeah, I really do have the background.
Right. You're like, I just did this.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And not only did it, but saw it through for 20 years. Right. So they knew that my goal was to accelerate that process and help it happen more quickly, because Southeast New Mexico College was New Mexico State University Carlsbad.
Okay.
All the way from 1960. Wow. So the college itself started in 1950. It was actually the first 2-year college in the state, but they didn't call it a 2-year college back then. It was actually just called an instructional center because they didn't have such things in New Mexico. The first one is actually New Mexico Junior College that became a college. But at the same time New Mexico Junior College was created, we were becoming a branch of New Mexico State, and that was true for 62 years until they broke away.
What made them decide to break away, and what is the benefit? Because I have no idea.
Yeah, so it's a great story. What happened in the pandemic is, all the big colleges were trying to figure out what to do. There's not going to be all these students on campus. Where's all our residents? How are we going to pay for everything?
Right.
So the president that had been at the branch campus decided to retire. And so they said, we'll just fire this president. He's retiring. We'll put this other one in another branch campus over all three. And we just saved a bunch of money.
Oh, okay.
So the people of Carlsbad said, no, thank you.
Understandably so.
Understandably so. Unlike all the other branches, New Mexico State University Carlsbad had, they had millage that was helping pay for the college, and it had been in place for decades. And it was really saving up a lot of money that they could use toward the college, but New Mexico State just wouldn't spend any of it. As you can imagine, the townsfolk kind of felt slighted by that, to say the least.
Right.
They weren't even sure quite how much there was until the breakaway happened. $75 million.
Wow.
That New Mexico State was sitting on. Apparently, it even affected the bond rating a little bit, is what somebody said. But I don't know that anybody ever, don't quote me on that one. But, it's on the podcast. I'll stand by that much. But the fact was, this college had been looking to grow and to get into technical education. And here, none of this had happened. Right. And with the breakaway, they pursued it during the pandemic. They got the support they needed from the governor, and amazingly, they made it through, and the legislation passed. Then came the hard part. We got to really do this.
Right. Which is where you come in, and you're the useful engine.
Yeah, that's where I come in. So when I interviewed and talked to the board about and they found out that actually when, not only that they already knew that I'd been in a college that broke away, so they knew that part. When they found out that my college also wanted to build a technical education building, and did, and then it was so successful, we built another one.
Wow.
They were like, I think at that point, all I had to do was not mess it up.
Sealed the deal.
Yeah. So that's what my role has been since I've arrived. And in these 3 years, we've been able to move those things along. We actually finished the breakaway from New Mexico State. We achieved our own accreditation as an independent college.
Great.
Everything that was planned, we pulled it off.
Wow.
And what's interesting is there were a lot of people who thought, they'll try and then they'll go back to be a branch of somewhere again. Maybe they'll do Eastern New Mexico this time, But no, we were independent. We were ready to go. And within the year after that, we received approval from the voters to get $5 million toward the new building so we can build what became and is now under construction, the Trades and Technologies building. And so then the investment from the PSP at $10 million was just such a wonderful thing to happen. And I'm so thrilled that they were willing to buy into the dream and see where we were going with this. And that was one of the things, I went through the process and was talking to them many times. I said, your goals and our needs are aligned.
Right. Makes a great partnership.
It makes a great partnership. And so that investment is, I still kind of well up thinking about it because it is helping all the students in Carlsbad to see the potential they have and to grow intellectually in a way that where with a branch campus, and I saw the same thing at my previous college, everybody was thinking about transfer. Everybody's thinking about that bachelor's degree.
Right.
Well, anybody who's lived through the last couple of decades knows that most of the growth has been in the technical side programs and in 2-year degrees, and that's what we're growing out. So we have a lot of degree programs that are planned, and I am almost at 80% of the faculty I need to pull it all off. So I have people now that are already hired and building the new curricula, and now they're moving dirt and getting ready to pour concrete, and the dream's beginning to come true.
That is fantastic. And I love that the partnership worked out, the $10 million, the $5 million that you already had, that is going to benefit the students. So let's talk about the benefit to the students. What do you see changing over the next, say, 5-10 years because of this partnership?
Yeah, so what you saw before, like most branch campuses, is people, and I'm going to take a little bit, I'm going to go back and forth between my experience as well as what I'm starting to see now, is that, the students would go to the branch campus thinking only of leaving town. And what you want is to make your college a local college. And the other part, too, is often they think of it as kind of the backup plan. But one of the things, the mentality you change as you make these changes and really tie your programs to the local job market, not to some idea of saying that might happen in Dallas or Houston or whatever, but there are jobs locally. And so by doing so, you start marketing the college as a first choice.
Right.
That it's not just a price leader even. It is designed with programs that feed jobs in the area, not a job somewhere else.
Right.
And that first choice is so huge. The second part of it is doing everything faster.
Right.
Because universities do not move fast. I mean, that's what it comes down to. They're ultimately conservative institutions when it comes to speed and change. Two-year colleges can change and move faster. And so by changing that focus to we can more quickly respond to market needs. I mean, we've all lived through recessions and changes and pandemics, and two-year colleges can bounce quickly and make those changes. So designing a college allows you to be that faster first choice institution, makes all the difference in the world. And suddenly people stop thinking about you as, oh yeah, the nice hometown option, as, oh, they have exactly what I want if I want to stay here close to family.
I love that.
And that's the beauty of what we're doing. So the change in what the Permian Strategic Partnerships investment is helping with, and I would be remiss too, the Department of Energy also contributed $11.7 million, but not to the building itself, but to the programs within.
Fantastic.
So we've been building on that for the last 2 years. So we already had some momentum. And really the gift from the PSP put us over the top.
What are those programs?
So we already had an industrial maintenance program, which is a generalist kind of 2-year degree that gets you some basics, that allows you to branch into a lot of different areas. The thing is, you really want to target those majors better than that. So under industrial maintenance, we had instrumentation, we had an electrical option, we had a mechanical option. What we're doing in the new building is we'll still have industrial maintenance, but we're building out electrical on its own. And it will actually be looking at commercial, residential, as well as some industrial. But when it comes to the industrial side, we're really doing instrumentation and electrical as its own program instead of as just a certificate. That's going to allow that to happen. Under oil and gas, we have both kind of the basic getting to know well site as well as pipeliner. But then we really have a more in-depth program on the environmental tech side, because today's oil and gas industry is all about making sure we're doing this safely and making sure that we're protecting the future for everybody to enjoy. So we have all those programs, plus, I mentioned the Department of Energy, we have a radiation control program as well. But that's going to also benefit oil and gas when it comes to materials testing and non-destructive testing, which is all part, again, of pipeline construction, also even on the well site. So we have a lot of pieces and parts, and it's just the beginning, but we have already hired faculty for the environmental tech, for the oil and gas, for the instrumentation electrical, and the radiation control. So I already have people putting the programs together as we're building the building at the same time.
Oh, that's wonderful. So they'll be ready to go day one when the doors open.
That is the plan. And we're still on track.
That's great. So, I read that you're a first generation college student yourself. Is that correct?
I am.
I am too. And so I think that probably has helped you a lot in your education journey, right? A lot of the students that go to your school, they're probably trying to balance that work-life balance and maybe being a first generation. What advice would you give to someone that is maybe, thinking of your college as their option, but they've never had someone lay down the pathway before them? Yeah. What advice would you give?
The best advice that I can give is talking with someone who has had that experience. So you'll see, like in my case, I was first generation, but my parents were completely focused that I was going to go to college from the beginning. But when it comes to a lot of students, they don't have somebody at home who even has that experience. They don't have a aunt or uncle, maybe. So the ones who do, great. They talk to them. I don't know about you. Did you have a relative that you could talk to a little bit?
No,
oh, wow.
I did.
So you did it from the very beginning.
The community college was a huge, I mean, they were the source of information, was going in and talking to people and counselors.
Exactly.
So,
And that's what we do is we have peer mentors. So they have somebody to talk to that's their age. And of course, our counselors, everything's designed around success. So they're there to help the students, not like, the universities that often want to weed people out.
Yeah.
So, Big State U has its advantages. But if you're most concerned about being successful in college, two-year colleges are built for that.
Absolutely. I think it is really a way to go if you want to stay local, like you said, but also if you want to travel, you're trying to reach a broader demographic, right? So let's talk about where you're located. You're in Carlsbad. And so how far of a drive is that? So if any of our listeners are listening from maybe, say, Midland, Odessa, or El Paso, where are you located exactly?
So we're about 2.5 hours away.
From everybody?
Actually, it's funny you say that. Because it's pretty much 2.5 to El Paso, 2.5 to Midland, Odessa, and it's a little over 2.5 up to Lubbock. So,
right.
And if you want to go to the State House like I do, it's going to be 4.5.
Okay.
So, Carlsbad, but it's funny, where I grew up in the hills of southeastern Ohio, which again, there wasn't a two-year college in town. There really weren't options. Pittsburgh, Cincinnati, Cleveland, they were all 2.5 hours away too. So when I interviewed, and people have said, well, why would you, are you coming here just to be a president? That's usually the question, kind of thing. I'm like, no, this reminds me of growing up in a small town, a river town. It has a lot of personality, a lot of hometown pride.
Yes.
But it's still growing and changing. And I feel that tension, but in the town, because Carlsbad, much like Midland, we're thriving. This economy is a great economy to be in. Yes. But there's still that pullback, like, well, I remember the day back when everybody knew each other. And so, and I relate. Right. I remember what it was like to be in my hometown, where everybody knew the families, and they, if somebody said where they lived in town, everybody knew where that was.
Right,
and that kind of thing. Carlsbad's still that way in a lot of ways, but it's also changing at the same time. So they estimate Carlsbad's population based on water use, not I'm talking about actual, water you run in the sink, in the shower, and so on, is that they're right around 80 to 90,000 because of the man camps. Okay. Because of all the RV camps, because of all that. But as far as the official population, it's more like 30,000. Right. So we're very interesting setup. But the only way you keep those people and those students is to have a livable city. And part of having a livable city is having a college where people can grow and put down roots. Absolutely. Otherwise, they're just going to take their RV and move on to the next site when that happens.
Do you see a lot of people that are in the oil field come to you for some technical advanced education, or to maybe have a career switch? Are you seeing any of that crossover with the man camps and the people in the oil field?
Not much yet. Okay. I mean, you'll see it every once in a while where somebody really maybe has had an experience where they've decided they need a career change, but it's pretty limited. They're looking for something like, hey, I want to go into nursing. Total and complete. And I saw the same thing back as the coal mines were closing down in the area in Kentucky and Indiana where I was. People come back and decide they want to be a radiographer. I mean, just total complete changes. But we don't see a lot because we didn't have those options. When your options are pretty much industrial maintenance and welding, and that's it. Right. You really need a spectrum of options. And that's the other thing I told people when we were putting the building together, is I said, when I first arrived, they're like, well, we're going to put the building here in the back near the welding lab. And I'm like, okay, guys, this is not the 70s. Right. Career and technical education's front and center. So we're putting it right in the very front door of campus where everybody sees it. Second of all, you have to put a lot of different programs in there so people can flow back and forth between the programs. And I've seen that in my previous college again. We were fortunate in my previous college, and this is what's different and what I'm having to make up as I go along here, is in that case, there was a technical school in town that wasn't a college. It just had become a college. They didn't even know what they were doing yet, when it come to being a college, because they'd never been one before. They just provided training through what was called Kentucky Tech. So we actually merged together and then built the new building on our campus, where we moved most all their programs over to our campus. Perfect. So I was able to basically take what existed and ramp it up. And
Right.
I say it was a team effort. There were a lot of people involved. But I was actually in both student affairs and academic affairs when it happened. I had a dual role at that point, so I was doing quite a bit of it. I opened that.
Right.
I was in academic affairs when we opened the building. But then what we did is we grew all those programs out as people realized these are college programs and they're options for students. I remember, you talk about having 4 kids. We both have 4 kids.
Yes, but we're in the 4-kid club.
Yeah, so I still remember I had a family, and the family had four boys, just like my family has, and all of them had went to the University of Kentucky. And the youngest one decided they wanted to go into welding at my college.
Oh,
and the parents were like, "You want to do what?"
Don't you know that
Don't
this
you
is
know
where
this
we
is
go?
where
This is where we
go?
do.
Exactly.
Right.
And it's the same way here with people, whether it's Texas Tech, whether it's New Mexico
Aggies.
State, exactly. And so then we brought them in and gave them a tour and talked to them about the possibilities and what they could do, and they decided, oh, this might work. And that student went on to open his own welding business not a couple of years after he graduated. I mean, he's very successsul. I take a guess he might be doing better than some of his brothers, but I'm not going to say, that kind of thing.
Just going to take a little credit there, but yeah.
It's one of those things. But that's what a lot of people don't realize. Once you have those skills and you have that success, that's what really builds it. But back to my set of programs where you get the synergy is you have to have those programs so students can start one and realize it's not what they want to do.
Right.
One of my favorite stories is when you get a student in welding and they'll come out and they'll take the mat and they go, this, I don't like the smell. I don't like the heat. I don't like it. And we tell them, hey, but let's try something else. You can use this class in your industrial maintenance degree. And we're going to get you started in circuits, get you started in machinery. We'll go that direction. Meanwhile, you have a girl who's welding, and she's like, I love this.
Love this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the wonder of having the different options to try out. And that's what we are building, a similar continuum of programs that serves the needs of the energy industry, but also it'll allow students to switch and change and try different pieces and parts. Because you'll get a student who never was good in math, but they'll get into circuits or even in welding. And welding, I still remember my one welding instructor, he said, I never knew what math was good for until I saw what trig could do when you're trying to weld a stair.
Oh, I bet.
And then he's like, oh, well, this shows me exactly what I need to do.
Yeah.
And he's like, after that, everything I learned in math was like, show me what I need it for in my job. And that's what you can do with these kind of degree programs.
Right.
The students suddenly will light up. And it's not just the hands-on part, it's realizing what it's good for.
Well, I'm glad you said that too, because I've always told, my husband, I've always told our kids, it's just as important to know what you don't want to do as it is what you do want to do. And don't be scared to try things. I think sometimes you think, oh, I don't want to fail. There's the fear of failure. And so, but no, it's okay to fail. Like it's okay to not like something and try something else, because the worst thing would be spend a career doing something you hate.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely. And that's the beauty of having this kind of set of programs that allow them to do that. So one of the things I'll tell you that, it kind of goes back to the advice for first generation college students is, especially at a branch campus, you're undecided, great, we'll just set you up with English and math and history and all this. And they're thinking, well, that's what I did in high school. It's like, and I'm like, in my college, I always said, no. And I mean, I'm sorry, but as vice president of student affairs, I said, I want those students in a major so they can tell me they don't like it.
Right.
And so everybody's schedule we build, I said, no matter what, you make sure you get them in a class that allows them to decide whether anything you want to try. I don't know, even if it's psychology, give us something. Because after the first semester, you'll know, oh, I like this, or no, I don't want any more of that at all.
Right.
And that is critical. And in a 2-year college, we're trying to give them those experiences in the very first semester. One of the things that always amazed me is you get these programs built. Because we have an engineering program at our college. It's not big, it's a good program. It feeds into engineering schools. But a lot of students, they get into engineering and then they realize they like the hands-on part more and they want to move into that. You go to engineering schools, a lot of big schools, a lot of them, you don't see the lab until sophomore year.
Wow.
I mean,
you could get in there and go,
right, because you're still being weeded out and everything else. The best engineering schools will actually get you hands-on pretty quick. Our school gets you hands-on the first semester.
That's fantastic.
And that's what you want to do.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Dr. Beardmore, when do you expect this new building to be open? And, and I know that always is subject to change. I understand construction, but when do you expect it to be open? And then when can students start inquiring about, maybe attending college there when they haven't looked at it as an option because that building wasn't there before?
Yeah. So our building is scheduled to open for fall of 27.
Okay.
So it's going to be another 21 months solid. But the one thing we love about Jane's Corporation, who's our builder, is that they meet their deadlines. That's one of the reasons that we selected them. Is there's so many people who tell you that but we were only late because of change orders and this and that and everything else. And like I've already told my team, I said once that plan's final, we're rolling.
Right.
Because we want to open fall 27. And what's really great about having a building like that is that not only the synergy, but because of the oil and gas industry, we're able to keep prices so low. Our tuition is only $54 a credit hour for a Carlsbad resident. Wow. But even if you're out of state, it's only $100 a credit hour.
Wow.
So you can attend Southeast New Mexico College. I mean, it's one of the best bargains, not just in New Mexico, in this area, it's in the nation. Right. We've been ranked as highly as the 6th most affordable college in the United States.
That's incredible.
So the board has been completely committed. They could have decided to just chase tuition increases like other schools, and they said no, keep it the same. So that's where we've stayed.
I'm glad, because I was going to ask you about affordable. Going to college. You have 4 kids. I have 4 kids. We know how expensive college can be, and so sometimes that can be a deterrent for students.
Absolutely.
They can say, we just haven't saved. We don't have the money. But you're saying this is something that you can do no matter what because it's affordable.
It's incredibly affordable.
How would somebody take that next step? They say, okay, this is it. This is what I want to do. How do I sign up?
Yeah, they can just they can go on the website, click on the inquiry, they can apply. It's all free. They can stop by the college, and I recommend stopping by because you want to see what you're getting into, and it's always fun to see the dirt moving too, so you see what's coming. And so it's as easy as can be. It doesn't cost you a cent. It's just a matter of investing. And if nothing else, every time you visit a college, you learn something about what you might want and what you might not want. And I can say to anybody who might be first generation in particular, visit. Take the time to visit. Absolutely. Because you will walk around and you'll get a feel for what it's like there, and it'll help you decide where you want to be and what you want to do. We are starting some of the programs fall of 26 in I dare say it's an old elementary school that we've leased so that we can get some things up and running. But really, fall 27 is going to be the time. So anybody who's in class right now as a sophomore, the timing's going to be very good for them, or even a junior. So
absolutely. What is your hope for every student that walks onto your campus?
I want them all to feel like they've made an excellent decision in choosing Southeast New Mexico College. I want them to feel like they belong and that they can grow at our college and that they feel comfortable there. And that's one thing that you can't come in as president and just change a culture.
Right.
When I arrived there, I remembered being back where the culture was at a branch campus where I was previously, and a lot of the faculty felt like they were university faculty. We teach our classes, the students either rise to the occasion or they don't. This college has been focused on success for years. It's really ingrained into the culture. I can't tell you how fortunate I am to have had the chance to be at this college because they care. Yeah. They really do.
And I think that's important. I think every student needs to know someone is caring about their academic journey and wants to see them grow as a person. And so on a personal note, I just want to ask you, as a dad of 4 sons, what do you hope that your sons have learned from your journey in education?
Well, I think persistence is probably number one, but I will say that 2 of my sons have attended one my previous college and one my current college right now. Great. So my second oldest is a graduate of my old college, Owensboro Community Technical College, before he went on and got his 4-year degree at Indiana University. And my fourth born, which actually he's only 1 minute behind his brother, they're twins. He is currently enrolled at my college right now, and I think it's been a great experience for him because he really was looking for a college that where, they kind of wrap around and care. He's not one that would have enjoyed being a number, and he's not one who was going to worry about sports events or anything either. So, but he's been involved in the Phi Theta Kappa Honor Society and just, been active at the college, and it's been really good for him.
That's fantastic.
It's really helping every student find what they're looking for. And, if you're looking for big state U with big football, we're not that.
Right.
And we never will be, and that's okay. But when it comes down to, learning and growing, that's the big part. And if I could just say for a minute, the thing that I love best is there's a lot of people who still have this sense that, college is about an education, that somehow training is less, that, programming like what we're talking about for the new building is somehow not a college education. It's wrong.
Right.
That's all there is to it. Because what you find, just like my story about the welding student, is for a student to find success in an area gives them the chance to see that they can do something more. I had a whole lot of students who would start out, I think especially of our electrical program, which became at my previous college the largest program of the college.
Wow.
Keep in mind, it was brought in from what wasn't a college,
right.
grew into the largest program of the college, outstripped business, education,
Wow.
all that, because it was such a great program. But we get students all the time, they're like, I don't want to take this, I don't want to take that, I just want to do electrical, I just want to get a certificate and go get my job. Mm-hmm. Once they're successful, they go, well, maybe I could try that class. Yeah, we got a class here. A lot of they all get in there and they're like, well, now that I can do math, I wonder if I could pass that English class so I can go on and get my associate's degree.
Right.
Well, guess what? You can.
You can.
And then they're like, well, I understand if I have a bachelor's, that makes things easier for me when I start my own, business. And guess what? Yes, it does.
Yes, it does. 100%. Do you help them with that transfer, with preparing them for the next step in their education?
We do. And that's what's beautiful about two-year colleges. They know the different paths you can take. Mm-hmm. And some are very traditional. My son, who was in computer science, who went on to Indiana University in computer science, he was in a program that wasn't computer science, but it was all lined out. What are the competencies? What are the programming languages you learned? And so he went to Indiana University. They said, oh, well, we can take all this as a group and count all this toward your sophomore classes. Yeah. Amazing. But, finding those pathways, that's what our counselors do.
Absolutely.
And so for so many people, they don't realize, especially when you talk about cost, that you can start at a very low price and then kind of set your pathway. And there's usually scholarships too. Some of the scholarships for students who transfer on are incredibly lucrative. So even then, it's a different world of scholarships and financial aid when you've come from a two-year college. The only way to find out those to start with us.
I love it. Let's talk. We're going to circle back just a moment to the partnership with PSP, because I think community partnerships and collaborations are so key for success for not just for businesses, but for education, which education is kind of a business too. So, but how can this community support your college more, just like PSP has done?
Well, the community, when I think about what the PSP is, it's 21 companies. I mean, really, they are the membership that support this. And so the connections within that. Mm-hmm. So when I think about the individuals who came to visit from PSP member companies to learn more about what we were doing, advise us on what we could do better, what some of the pathways would be, it's made such a difference for us, because without their input, we can't make our programs do everything they need to do. Mm-hmm. So it's amazing to have, companies at the level of, ExxonMobil, Permian Resources, mm-hmm. ConocoPhillips. Now I feel like I have to name everyone, but we get started down, and they have people that have incredible experiences, sometimes worldwide, international experiences, and they're taking their time with us to help us make sure that, the pathway we're developing in instrumentation really makes sense for the Permian Basin.
Right.
Like, that's what we need. And it's so hard to get people out of the field to do that. But the relationship with the PSP allows that to happen in a way that otherwise it might be a little bit harder.
Yeah, because when you speak to them, you know how they're applying it in the workforce and what they need from workers.
And it's amazing when I sit down and when I get the right people talking shop together. So I talk about how we hired the faculty members. I mean, I could take it so far with some of the equipment and the curriculum and so on. But yesterday I was talking to a gentleman. He came out of a two-year college in Iowa, But then he's worked all over the world. Knows 5 languages. I mean, this guy's, it's one of these people you're like, oh, this is somebody who probably could have gone Ivy League, but they went to a 2-year college and they grew up through the system. He can program anything. He's been doing it for 3 decades. So he gets with my new instrumentation electrical professor, and and all of a sudden it goes into shop talk, and I'm just sitting there going, wow, this is what you want.
That's right. And when you see that excitement that they have,
and they're
in
excited
their eye,
about sharing that with the next generation and how that's going to happen. So you can't put a price on that.
Absolutely.
And that again comes back to, the PSP wants to do good for this area.
They do.
And they are working, whether it's road safety, whether it's, workforce development, or whether it's just education in general. This is something that shows we're on the right track. I know for our community, it just felt like a real shot in the arm, like, hey, we're doing the right things. We're making the right things happen. And the building, when we had our groundbreaking, golly, even the lieutenant governor came. Our little college down the corner, 4.5 hours away. And so there's a lot of excitement in the air. And I thank all those who've contributed for it.
That's great. What is the one thing, or I'm sure there's probably several that you could choose from, but the most important thing you've learned through all your years of education about students in general?
This will go back and cover some of the ground I've covered before, but I think it's critical to say. And that is that I think a lot of students think because they've been in K through 12 education, they know what education's about. And as somebody who came and taught middle school, I get that. But there's something very different about a post-secondary education when you're somewhere where you choose to be there. And the instructors are there to help you find your path and your way in the world and to share their particular knowledge. I, as an 18, 19-year-old, I don't think I ever quite, it was just like, this is what you do. You go to school, right? Right. It's my job.
Just what you do.
Yeah. Right. But then to find people that are excited about what they do and can tell you what you can do with that knowledge in the world and how it can connect elsewhere. As an educator, lighting that fire is just an amazing thing. And I remember when it happened to me, and I guess I'll do one last little story that tells a little bit about it. I was a first generation college student, went off to college, this is going to be fun, right? We're going to, it'll be different.
We're here for fun, right?
We're going to do this, And so the college I attended, you had a paper due every week in this one class, the very first semester. And my first paper, I got a C-. And I was like, yeah. Well, I didn't always do my best, that's okay, And so next weekend, there's a field trip, there's going to be camping, get to meet new people. I go on the field trip, come back, it's late after riding on a bus, diesel fumes and all. Write my second paper, and I get that back and it was an F. And I thought, what have I done? Why am I here? The kind of things that I think a lot of first generation college students feel because things don't always go right. Right. And I realized I'm going to make this work. Yeah. I'm going to find a way to do this. So I buckled down. I'm going next paper. I'm going to get it. And I worked for hours. I worked deep into the night. I turn it in. And I got a C-. But you know what?
Welcome to college.
Yeah. But see, the thing is, that was the last C- I ever got.
Nice.
From that point forward, I just kept pushing harder and harder. And I finally eked out. He couldn't give me an A, but he gave me an A-/B+ on my last paper. And I still remember that professor saying to me when I met with him after I'd finally, I think I gotten a B, we're getting close to the end of the semester. And I sat down, I was looking at all the books on his walls. And I was like, oh my God. And he caught me looking, and he goes, someday you'll have an office like this. What? Me? I didn't see it. But somehow he saw it. And it's those kind of words that can make all the difference in someone's life. So those things like when he said that to me, when somebody else said, I could see you being a teacher. Yeah. You never know what words are going to resonate through the ages. Stories that I'll tell like now that I've told others. And I can tell you exactly who told me that and when and where and what the setting was like. So, if somebody who's thinking about going to college or thinking, I'll just get a job and find out. Yeah. Let me tell you, there's moments in your life that are going to happen that'll set you on a path. Challenge yourself. Try it. Don't, like you said, try the major, see what you can do. And you might be surprised. And a place like Southeast New Mexico College, a place like my previous college, like so many colleges, there are people there who want these things to happen for you.
And they do plant those seeds. I had a very similar experience when I was in junior college with a teacher, and I would have never chosen the career path I did without him saying those same words and saying, hey, you should try TV. Go see if you like it. And I was like, what? I mean, it wasn't even a thought in my head at the time, but that professor planted the seed, went and tried it, loved it. So you never know, which is just a true testament to how important our educators are, because they are truly changing and shaping lives and encouraging people to reach higher than they ever thought they could imagine.
Yes.
And so I love that. Well, thank you for all of your years and experience in education, and now bringing it here to our community and applying what you've learned through the years, because that is what our college needs. What the Southeast New Mexico College needs right now is you, and you're being able to be useful. And we appreciate you choosing here.
Well, thank you. Thank you for the chance to talk and share.
Yes. Is there anything in closing that maybe we haven't talked about yet that you thought, oh, when I go into this podcast, or maybe we should ask your wife over there on the drive over, was there anything that I really wanted to share today that I think is important to the testimony that you have as an educator?
I think we've covered it, but at the same time, I want to say that, we're not finished yet. There's so much more to do. Mm-hmm. We've talked about what we're doing at the college at the moment, but another element of PSP's initiatives is early childhood education, and we're pushing to open childcare and preschool on our campus. It's STEM focused, science, technology, and engineering, math. So while I've talked about a lot of things that are already moving forward, we got a lot more coming.
Great.
So
what's on
I'm
your wish list? If there was one thing on that wish list besides the early childhood education, one other wish list item?
That one comes first, and the second one is we're looking at a dining hall and residence hall next.
Great.
So, yeah, I think that's going to help a lot of students stay close. And right now, we already have students who drive 2 and 2.5 hours to come and attend college, and they'll sleep on somebody's couch.
Yeah.
It's crazy, but that's the only way they're going to get the surgical technology degree, because nobody else has it in the area. It's the only way that it's the nursing program they were looking for, and we have a great nursing program. So we need to have those items at the college too. So we're going after those next.
Fantastic. Well, I hope you get everything on your wish list, and I look forward to seeing your college grow in years to come. And we want to encourage everyone to go online and check out Southeast New Mexico College as an option for your child, your grandchild, for you. and maybe this is the perfect place for you to continue your education. And it's all because of so many wonderful community partners and educators like you, Dr. Beardmore. So thank you so much. We appreciate your time today.
Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you for listening. As always, I always say we are all in this together. We're better together. And so we appreciate you taking the time to listen today to all of the amazing people in our area in West Texas, New Mexico, that are really making the Permian Basin what it is today. And so thank you. Share it with someone that you love so we can continue to keep this podcast going and continue to hear the great stories of PSP and their membership and what they're doing for our community. So thank you so much. As always, the future lies in the Permian, and we appreciate you being here today. You make it a great day.